This week I'm so excited because I'm talking about one of my favorite films ever, so sit your ass down because Papa Spooky has got a history lesson for you. So this week is gonna be a little different from last week. However, that's really strange because this film influenced August Underground way more than you would think. And it also influenced Byron when he made American Guinea Pig, especially the first one, has more in common with this film than like the actual Japanese guinea pig films. And of course, I am talking about the infamous, the mysterious, the wonderful Last House on Dead End Street. At first I wanted to make a long video telling you the history and details of this film. However, Ben Simpson on YouTube already did that, and he did a way better job than I could have ever had. So that link is in the bio, and go tell him Spooky sent you. However, I can do a quick summary of this film's history. So Last House on Dead End Street was originally shot in 1972 by film director Roger Watkins. This was more or less a film student project. It had a decent budget, however Watkins was addicted to amphetamines. That might explain the film. So he spent most of the budget on his drug addiction and was left with only $800 to finish the film, which translates to roughly $5,000 in today's currency. With that spawned a film inspired by the rumors that the Manson family shot videos of them murdering people. When the film first came out in 1973, it was under the title The Cuckoo Clocks of Hell and was over 3 hours long. That cut is sadly lost to time, so that explains why you might be familiar with the title, because it appears on a lot of lost media lists and icebergs, which are again full of misinformation. Iceberg videos full of misinformation, I know, hard to believe. It was later cut down to 2 hours, however it seemed to be too long for any distributors. And finally, 4 years after its initial release, it finally got mass distribution. Not mass in the way that we know today, but I mean in grindhouses, in double features, from what I see from advertisements, mostly with like films like Mark of the Devil and stuff like that. And of course the Funhouse is the cut we know today. But after its run as the Funhouse, it got bought again and changed the name again to Last House on Dead End Street. And after its initial theater run in the 70s, it kind of disappeared from Earth. It got a small release on VHS in North America, however not much of the film was known, because all of the names in the credits are aliases and the music is stock music of course, so really nobody knew anything about this film. Sorry for, taking so much time to actually introduce the film, it's just the story behind the film is just as interesting as the film itself. Not to say that the film itself isn't good, it's incredible, and a lot of people are like, oh shit, I really want to see the 3 hours long cut, the original version that wasn't dubbed, that Roger Watkins actually wanted to make. Which to that I have to retort, do you really want to see a 3 hours long methamphetamine nightmare infused film? Me too, actually. I'd love that. But what we have right now today is still a fabulous work of underground horror. Without further ado, because I already talked too much and most of my audience is gone by this time, let's talk about the film. So the plot is fairly simple. You have Terry, who's this loser guy who just came out of jail for pushing drugs. He's really looking for something to do with his life, but since he's good at being a criminal, he wants to stay in that career field. So he goes to meet one of his friends who produces stag films, which is the 70s way to say porn. He's making porn, and Terry is very interested in that. However, he wants to bring a new vision to the porn industry, which is of course snuff, which is still a theme that a lot of filmmakers explore today. However, it really was kickstarted by films like this one and of course the 76 film Snuff. And then his friend is like, yo, I'll connect you with this rich asshole, which is this bourgeois type of guy who really hosts these weird parties where his wife gets whipped by a guy with a hunchback and, a kid brought the whip and she's wearing blackface. Did I mention this was weird? But before Terry can go meet the guy, he needs to, shoot something, prove that he's actually the filmmaker he pretends to be. And for that, he'll hire a weirdo, which will be his cameraman, which, I mean, they're filming snuff films, so they're all gonna be weirdos. And then he hires two girls, who we get to see earlier in the film talk to each other, and they mention how they don't have money and they're pretty much ready to do anything for it. After Terry gathers around his group of misfits, he decides to kill a homeless man, which is always an option. Then of course he shows the product to the producer and the director, and they love it. And apparently they make a lot of money, but they want to cut Terry out of the deal. The guy brings you snuff films and you're like, yeah, that seems like the type of guy we can screw over. That won't fire back at us. Spoiler alert, it fires back at them very badly. One thing leads to another and we get the final act of the film, which is explicit, violent debauchery at its finest. And honestly, this film is greatly improved by the shitty quality of the transfers you'll find of it. I mean, you need the cigarette burns, you need the scratches, you need the grain, because it just adds to this gritty, sleazy, kind of dirty feeling atmosphere. And especially for the final sequence, which is extremely gory for something produced in 1973, especially by a film student. Holy shit, that's impressive. So the crew takes revenge on the people trying to screw them over. So he gets revenge on the producer, the director, and of course his wife and another guy, which I didn't really follow who that guy was. Anyway, no prejudice, they all get slaughtered. And the film culminates in this very weird sequence with a disembodied hoof that gets fellatioed. That scene I still don't get. I've seen this film about 30 times. I still don't know where that come from. Where did they get the hoof? Why and how? And just what the fuck? And then the movie ends. I really love this movie, it just sucks that nobody's gonna watch this video. Oh, hi, so would I recommend Last House on Dead End Street? Well, fuck, yeah. Have you been listening? You had underground films, especially in the New York scene prior to this one, of course, but this one takes the cake for holy shit is it brutal. Like I said, today's filmmakers are still inspired by this film. Fred Vogel, Stephen Biro, me. Anytime I've written the goddamn script, it's just been a cheap ripoff of Last House on the Dead End Street. I was gonna say The Left, but no. It's very confusing with that title. And ever since I downloaded this off the internet and burnt it on a Blu-ray when I was like 15, I've been fascinated by what this film represents. And would this movie be just as good if it was just the final sequence, what this film is famous for, just the torture and murder scenes? No, because you need the glue to hold it together. Also, the costume design is incredible. The masks are so creepy. The contrasty 16mm colored film look really does wonder for this film's atmosphere. The lighting is harsh, there's harsh shadows, the sound design, the music, it doesn't sound like stock music, it sounds like intense music that was perfectly designed for these scenes. The heartbeats as the tension gets up is so incredible. It's honestly, for a film which was just an experimental student film made by Roger Watkins, it's so goddamn impressive. My student film didn't look like that, or sound like that, or my student film was shit. This is incredible. This was before Cannibal Holocaust, before Blair Witch, before August Underground, and it has those, found footage aspect without it actually being found footage. In American horror films, you had the 60s, which were honestly fun, spooky, atmospheric films that I really love a lot of those. But the 70s, there's a reason why the 70s is my favorite decade for horror and just films in general. It's because of movies like this, the gritty 16mm independent, rough around the edges that wasn't scared to, you know, go all out, go full balls out with its themes and exploitation of those themes. Mwah. Love this film. Anyway, see you guys next time.